Woo, baby! Episode 7 of Paradise, a near perfect hour of television that honestly could have been a standalone movie. If they added another hour to that and didn't leave it on a cliffhanger, you would be talking about this being one of the number one action movies of the year. It was that good. Full range of emotions. We had action. We had tension. Dare I say, I even teared up a little bit, which is a little bit embarrassing to admit about a show like Paradise, but I'm 40 years old now and I've got kids and I'm soft and I cry at just about anything. And there was a moment there with Sterling K. Brown that had me in my feelings while watching Paradise. Now, the show on the whole is a fun show. It's entertaining. It's action. It's sci-fi mixed with disaster movie. It's a little bit of Truman Show mixed with like 28 Days Later mixed with Oppenheimer. You throw it all together and you get a fun Hulu show. Out of the gates, I thought it was going to be an amazing show. Somewhere in the middle, we kind of lulled. I was like, all right, this is just like an action movie. And then things started to pick up. And then we hit episode 7, the penultimate episode this season. The only time anyone in the world, regular people, use the term penultimate, it's when we're talking about the second to last episode of a season of TV. And usually that is always the best episode of the year, setting up for a big finale. And this one did not disappoint. We start off with a flashback to the Cuban Missile crisis. I think one of the hallmarks of a good show where you can tell that they're putting in effort, putting in budget, doing real storytelling is when you have these little asides where all of a sudden we're just talking about a colonel in 1962 who is, stressed out about the Cuban Missile crisis and talking to his wife Miriam about how he believes that nuclear war is imminent and it's only a matter of time before the human race wipes itself out. And then we have him, as he walks out of the room, he hits the light switch up and down. And he's looking at these missiles and these rockets, these little models he has on his desk. And the light goes off and the missiles go dark. And the light goes on and it comes back. And I'm thinking, is that where they got the idea for the bunker to be able to like turn the lights on and off inside? I don't know what it meant at that point, but you know it's going to mean something big, and it all pays off in the end. And I think that's, like I said, one of the signs that a show is really putting itself out there is when you have these episodes with characters that are not your usual, or either a full episode or scenes that are of importance, where you have characters that you haven't been watching, a storyline that you haven't been telling, and you're still into it. Albeit this was a short one for just like the opening scene of the TV show, but it's just it's good storytelling. It lets you know that I felt like I was watching a mini movie, and that's exactly what unfolds as we find out what this catastrophe is. It's a Antarctic volcano eruption that is causing a 300-foot tsunami to eat up the world. And basically through the eyes of through the news channel, we get all the details for this extinction level event, where we go back to the dude who was the crazy long-haired professor who was speaking at the conference that the president and Sinatra were like the only two people watching and listening to him when he said the big one's coming. And he's the one telling the whole world, we are fucked, that there is no end to this. The tsunami is going to go back and forth across the globe a dozen times, and it only stops when it decides it's going to stop. So we have the entire setting now for how the world completely collapses. And these are things we've seen before. There's been plenty of disaster movies, good and bad, that are all usually along the same lines. I thought this one was good in really laying out probably how it would go down. And I don't know how realistic some of the stuff is, and I don't really care to dive into whether it is or not. I'm sure there are people in the know who could tell you whether this was real or far-fetched. But the notion of like, there is a natural event that then leads to all of humanity wiping itself out, because the Russian and the Chinese are now engaging in a land grab, and all of a sudden Denmark's getting bombed and NATO's in trouble. And it basically comes down to a game of chicken of they're going to launch, and so we got to launch. And so what do you do? This episode to me is the James Marsden episode. I love Marsden. I'm a Marsden guy. He's been on the podcast before. I love all of his work. He, as Cal Bradford, has been a great character all series. But, Sterling K. Brown has been the man. Xavier Collins is the protagonist here. Cal, you're a little unsure of. Is he a good guy? Is he not a bad guy, but morally, is he a good guy? Is he a bad guy? Did he do everything he could? And then you see episode 7. It is his time to shine, his episode on display, where you really see the what sort of struggle it would be if you were placed in a situation like this. Everyone from Marcia, who's like, who was with him since the beginning, who expects to be taken care of, all of the staff being like, what the fuck do we do? Marsden wrestling with, do I try to keep the peace or do I tell people, what the truth and what's really coming and go be with your loved ones because you're all going to fucking die. That is a situation I am not envious of, but Marsden does a great job there of like really showing the struggle of like deep down, he's a good dude. He wants to do what's right, but he also wants to do what's good and best for the people. I mean, it is a real internal struggle there that I think he really put on display. I go back and forth myself. I was like, on the one hand, what he's doing, he's like, the people have a right to know. Yes. But also, if the world truly is fucked, if everyone's basically going to die anyway, for the most part, you probably need to do what's best to give people a shot to survive, right? I don't know. And this is why I think it's an interesting episode, because if you go on the air and you say, we're fucked, we're dead, huddle up and say goodbye, you instantly start chaos. We're just jumping into the Walking Dead world. We're right into The Last of Us, where it's going to become Lord of the Flies and everyone's at each other's throats. That's probably going to happen anyway. So you might as well give the people the truth and give them what they deserve. But if there's even a little bit of a shot of maintaining it or surviving, then maybe you have to maintain that farce of like, it'll all be okay. I thought the scene with Jeffrey, the custodian, was my favorite. Well, one of my favorites of the entire episode. Marsden seeing this guy who is just still going about his business, sweeping up the floors, picking up garbage, cleaning the White House while the world is literally falling apart. And, he takes the time in the middle of all the chaos to stop and talk to him and be like, what's your name, dude? What are you doing? And he's like, I've been through it all before. I've heard it all. We've heard pandemics. We've heard war. We've heard terrorist attacks. At the end of the day, the world keeps spinning. And Marsden's like, I don't know about that one. And he's like, all due respect, dude, I've heard this before. And as we come to learn, maybe potentially, based on what Billy Pace found when he went outside of the bunker and what Sinatra may be showing to Xavier Collins with those recordings, is that maybe the world did keep spinning and maybe there are people out there and maybe humanity does have a chance. And that is all made possible by the call that Marsden made. The EMP shutdown, the blue codes in the nuclear football, where the president has two choices: either launch the entire nuclear arsenal or shut down all electronics on Earth. And that was kind of the big twist at the end there, where he pulls out the blue codes and explains to Sinatra that colonel from way back in the 60s came up with the idea that if it ever came down to it, and it was you're up against the wall to launch the entire nuclear arsenal, or here's your alternative: shut down the world, set everyone back, to the Stone Age, basically 500 years, whatever, back with no electronics, but give them a chance to live. Now, I thought that was a no-brainer. And this is why I like this show. And this is why I like characters like Sinatra. I think Sinatra is the most intriguing character of the bunch. Sterling K. Brown is the hero, right? Xavier Collins, he's the hero. He's the good dad. He's the grief-stricken father. He is the loyal bodyguard. And he is the hero who's going to take on, the powers that be and give the truth to everyone in the bunker. Great character. You can root for him. I like how Cal Bradford was a little more ambiguous. Like, wait, what's going on with here? And I love how Sinatra is... You really have to examine her character to really give it a good, honest assessment, because on the surface, she's an asshole. Don't get me wrong, I'm not rooting for her. I fucking hate her. I hate her with a passion. The only person I hate more than her is Danielle from season 3 of Traitors. But I do acknowledge the depth of her character and how much would be on the shoulders of people who are at the head of an operation like this. It's weird, but you're tasked with saving the world and keeping humanity going. But then when the chips are down and you're actually doing it, you have to make some tough decisions, because if people find out that the world is still going up there, people trying to get in, people trying to get out, then you have mass chaos on your hands, the same way that the president had to go through that on the day of the catastrophe. So it's easy to say just like, oh, you shouldn't be killing people. You're a bad character. But when the stakes are at the level we're talking about, there's not really a black and white. Now, Sinatra herself is saying that, I'm not a monster. And then by the end of the episode, she's threatening his wife and daughter, and she's like, well, maybe I am a monster. So she is still, at the end of the day, a motherfucker with her ratty hair falling out of her head. I hope she gets her head blown off at some point. I think that's why episode 4, I believe it was so important for the Sinatra character, where we see her prior to living in the bunker and prior to the extinction event, where you actually see her as a regular person. Yes, she's just sold her company for, what's soon to be billions, but she's a regular woman. She meets her husband. You find out about her family, and you learn that she is just so consumed with grief, knowing that her son is not going to make it. And so it feels like she's coming from that place, right? That was her motivation, was to try to save the world, try to save her family after, the loss of her son just like absolutely consumed her. So she's not like, I believe she's an evil person and a villain, but it's not like a psychopath, sociopath sort of supervillain who, just wants to watch the world burn and just wants to kill and power. There is some element of humanity in there. Now, I do think inside the bunker, she has become a little bit power hungry. I do think she is now conflating keeping the world going and keeping the bunker safe with her being the boss. And so that's where I think it's a great character. And I think it's a great storyline that, there are two sides to it. I wouldn't say that she's like, it's like an anti-hero or, whatever, but it does fall under that line of like doing the wrong stuff for what you think at least are the right reasons. And I think there's some depth to that. And I think she is a very hateable character. I mean, that final scene there, first of all, leaving off episode 6, I thought that the Terry thing, knowing where Terry Collins was and knowing that she's alive, was a total bluff. I finished episode 6 going, don't fall for that shit, Xavier. Don't fucking fall for that. And now episode 7, I'm not so sure, because it does seem like they've established that people on the surface are still alive. And unless she, it's entirely possible she could fake a bunch of radio recordings of a whole bunch of people from the surface. But it does seem like the storyline might be headed that direction, that there is more on the surface than we realize. I've already established there's some life after Billy Pace went up there and whacked the 4 people who were like the recon mission. So whether or not there are, new societies or people trying to make it to the bunker, we don't know yet, but it does seem like Sinatra presents that. This is where bro, let me just tell you something. If you're ever in a situation where you're in an underground bunker after an extinction level event with humanity and you decide to stage a coup and steal all the weapons and take out the head guy, don't just leave some jamoke with your daughter and tell him, hey, keep this girl in here. You fucking lock your daughter up where she needs to be. You keep them safe as fuck when you're going in for the kill. Because guess what happens? As soon as Sinatra says that she's got your daughter, your whole plan's out the fucking window. God damn it. Wherever he was going to keep the bad guys hostage, he should have had his kids in there and be like, my team, my people are with you at all times. I'm not just leaving my kids, in a basement somewhere with some regular ass dude saying, keep an eye on them like the fucking babysitter. And my God, what a shitty job that guy did. She disappeared. His daughter disappeared in like 5 minutes. She was never safe. She didn't stay in that bunker for a half hour. Just a perfectly executed plan where you just left yourself completely exposed by your family. I honestly wish, man, I think about situations like that where you really can't negotiate with terrorists. She should have been like, give me my guns back, return things to normal, find out who murdered Cal, because as we learned, the DNA from the murderer and the Cal Bradford killing was from someone not in the bunkers. I mean, someone, at least according to Sinatra, someone from the surface came in and murdered Cal Bradford. Now, as we saw in this flashback, there's a million people it could be. It could be that woman, Marcia, or not specifically her, but someone like that. These people who were left behind, who feel like Cal Bradford signed their death warrant, their death certificate, killed them and their family, and, they want revenge. So there's, if that's the case, there could be a billion people out there who would want to murder Cal Bradford. But anyway, so she says, you're going to do all that shit, or I'm going to kill your daughter and you're never going to see your wife again. I get that in that spot, you really got to be careful. I wish Sterling K. Brown just pop, put 2 in her knees and said, oh yeah? Well, I'm going to rip out your fingernails and chop off your eyelids and slowly bleed you to death if you don't give me my daughter and my wife back. Two can play that game, and I'm the one with the guns. This bitch, Jane, I keep calling her Mary. Jane is the real problem. That son of a bitch. And I think we're going to see more about her, I hope, as the series goes on. Sterling K. Brown announced the other day that season 2 was a green light, which, was never in doubt. The show's been so popular and so talked about that we knew we were going to get more episodes. But he did a great reveal where he wrote season 2 on his hand and put it up the same way that Gabriella, the psychiatrist, told him to say no when they were doing the interrogation. But Jane is just this like stone cold assassin, and I would love to know what her background is, why she's the way she is, why is she basically so evil and doing Sinatra's bidding. That I think might be where Sinatra is a little more ambiguous and there's a little more depth. It might just be that Jane is like a fucking literal assassin mercenary who doesn't give a fuck, because the way that she just iced Billy, no problem, and then was proud of it and said, I'm the biggest motherfucker here. And the way that she's probably ready to kill a kid, like as soon as the word is given, she might just be an absolute, true blue villain. So it's tough. Your daughter is pinned up, but I ultimately feel like Sinatra will go with self-preservation and would not sacrifice herself. And so if you're playing a game of chicken and it's like, well, I still have all the guns, you got my daughter, but I will fucking kill you. I don't know. I just don't. I guess we'll see what happens when I'm in the situation at the end of the world. But I just feel like caving in is never the way to go. Giving all the power back to a, power hungry nut like her is probably not the way to go. But man, that episode had it all. And again, we've seen a lot of disaster movies where every which way we've seen nuclear explosions, we've seen tsunamis, we've seen, deep freezes, we've seen nuclear winter, all of that shit. But I thought they did a good job of making it, a little different. We saw that the tsunami was causing like those bursts of air, and the girl's bleeding and her ears are blown out, and the black wall just like moving at them when the wave takes out Jakarta. Some of the planes going down. We see the nukes launching as President Bradford turns the key for the EMPs to turn them all off. So I guess the big question is, did the nuke actually hit Atlanta? On the screen, it looked like, even if it wasn't a direct hit to Atlanta, it looked like it was pretty fucking close. If we're talking about nuclear warheads, I would say that everyone's still fucked. But they do just enough. They just like bring you right to the brink and give you enough. I think it's a very good show in terms of they leave you with cliffhangers and they leave you with these mysteries. But then like the next episode, you're getting your answers. And we're not building some grand, intricate web of, never-ending storylines and never-ending mysteries. It is a good show in that it's like, we're talking guns, we're talking action, we're talking sci-fi, we're talking disaster. There is great acting. Sterling K. Brown, James Marsden, Julianne Richardson. These are all like really good actors and actresses. So it's not like it's a bad movie that everyone just loves. It's like there is quality to it, but they keep the pace going almost too fast. Like it kind of became an action movie right away when I thought we could have slow built it a little bit more. But the world needs shows like this. Not every single show needs to be Severance or White Lotus, where you're digging in and you're theorizing and there's symbolism and there's deeper meanings and slow burns. Like sometimes just give me the entertainment. And then when you mix in an episode like 7, where it's like this is just great quality entertainment, that's the makings of a good show. It's not going to be the cultural watershed, defining TV show out there right now. But you got more episodes like 7 in you, and this show will continue to be extremely popular. Because like I said, that scene, as much as it's fun and as much as you're motherfucking Sinatra and they're grabbing the guns. I mean, the flashback to the helicopters where Sterling K. Brown is arguing with the new guy with the gun, and he gets popped in the head, and you see the dynamic between him and what's her face, the girl who the president was sleeping with, the other secret agent. That was intense shit. I mean, that I thought they really captured how chaotic it would be in the moment if you told a whole bunch of people it's over for you. I mean, that the vice president being like, we need you guys to hold down the White House while we escape. Go fuck yourself. I'd be reaching for that gun too, but he's getting popped, getting the heads blown off, blood all over him while he gets to the helicopter and tries to save his kids. I mean, that is as probably as, it's dramatic and it's action movie, but it probably would be, like that. And it probably would be chaos throughout the world the way they described it. So that scene with Sterling K. Brown on the phone with his wife, I didn't expect to be getting emotional over Paradise, but when you're saying your last words to the love of your life and she's in Atlanta and you're literally watching a nuke about to fall on her head and you've only got, seconds left. And when she says, be a good father, and she says, tell them it's okay to be happy. I was thinking to myself the whole time as a parent, I'd be like, I don't care about me. You go be a dad and keep the kids happy. That's all that matters. It's okay. Don't grieve me. Don't worry about me. Whatever. That was as real as it gets. So a little bit of everything in that episode to set up for the big finale in episode 8, where we'll see kind of who blinks first. I think if you watch the what's to come, it looks like, Xavier Collins kind of bends the knee where they say, what does she have on you? What does Sinatra have on you? And he's like, my daughter, which I guess is to be expected. But I wish there was a little bit of you think you're going to fucking outsmart me? You think you're going to bend my, twist my arm? Pow, pow, pow. Tie you up, bitch. Torture you until I get what I want. But we'll see. He's too good of a character and too, heroic of a character to do all that. Even as the chaos unfolded, he was still trying not to kill people. He was still trying to save people. He made a couple tough decisions and calls with Marcia, telling her, I can't even save your kid who's sick. So, he follows his orders and he takes and he does what he needs to do. But also at the end of the day, he's going to do whatever it takes to keep his family safe. So we'll see what happens in episode 8, the finale of season 1. If it's even half as good as episode 7, Paradise is going to finish on such a strong note as they head into season 2, which was just announced by Sterling K. Brown. He posted an Instagram where he wrote season 2 on his hand, the same way that the therapist Gabriella wrote "Say No" when they were interrogating him. So a very cool announcement for a season that we all knew was coming, because Paradise is delivering in ways that shows like Silo have not. Silo, the Apple TV show, which is kind of the same concept. Post-apocalyptic world where they are living in an underground bunker. Now in Paradise, it's this more of this utopian neighborhood, whereas Silo is this grungy underground bunker. It's like Snowpiercer, but instead of being on a train, they're in a stationary silo. But season 1 of that on Apple TV was great and had me fiending for more. It was like a little diamond in the rough amongst all of the streaming services. And then season 2 was unbearable. I mean, unwatchable. I gave up on it. It was so bad. Because there was nothing happening. Whereas Paradise might be a little too fast paced, and that's where it becomes more of an action series, and you kind of lose, I guess, some of the intellectual value of a television show, I guess. But it just keeps it entertaining and keeps it moving, because at the end of the day, we are talking about a sci-fi movie here. We're talking about a disaster film turned into a TV show. It's not supposed to be, some thought-provoking, deep analysis type show. It is what it is, and it does it very well, and it's doing it better than the other shows on television right now that are similar. Who knows? Maybe in the end, it's all a prequel to Silo. Maybe eventually life in the neighborhood just gets worse and worse and worse, and it transforms into this shitty Silo. And at the end of season 5, episode 8, chick from Silo walks out and is like, what? But we'll see how it finishes up. But Paradise ending on a strong note, heading into season 2, and I'm sure a season 3 and maybe 4 are on the way, because it's been that popular of a show. So Paradise, one of the standouts in all the streaming services right now.